So workflow automation and high-speed data. As you've heard about 30 times today, my name's Sean. I'm the National Sales Manager. But for anyone that's joining us, I'll be taking anyone that's just joined us, which a couple have, I'll be taking you through this section. Okay, so automation. It's all the rage at the moment. Everyone loves doing it. Everyone loves doing it in completely different ways. Well, they have previously, but more people have looked at the past, looked at the way that they're doing things, and have gone down quite a similar path to the other vendors that are out there. So the idea behind workflow automation is the idea of taking away manual tasks and repetitive tasks, so that you don't have to have someone sitting there watching progress bars, clicking things, and getting bored. So really, it's about how the least amount of mouse clicks and the least amount of infrastructure and the least amount of people getting chewed up by by the mundane manual tasks that go day to day. The idea is less stress, more productivity. Which is nice in principle, and now it's nice in practice. So really, all the systems that we'll be showing here have the principle of a node-based approach. And what I mean by a node-based approach, and you'll see a graphic in a second, is really giving you a visual representation of how your material comes in, how it is affected, how it has changed, and then how it's outputted. How it's output. So really, the simplest way of doing it is through the GUI interface. You can do things via command line. Depends on how much you want to nerd out on that. So there are many different ways of approaching the automation side of things, but the principles are pretty much exactly the same. Take material, affect it in some way or in multiple ways, and then push it out. The differentiator between each of them is really around the smarts and where they sit within the marketplace. Again, going back to one of the earlier conversations, everyone seems to be playing nice with each other, and on this side of things, if you don't play nice with one another, your product doesn't necessarily develop all that well. So the idea is, on a number of these products, where they have a requirement to integrate with someone else, they open their APIs and make sure that they have plugins or hooks into other systems to facilitate faster and better automation. So I guess the first one that I've got on the screen is Route 6's Content Agent. So Route 6 are a fantastic organization that we've dealt with for quite a number of years. The guys are, I like to say, like Digistore, but in London. They get what the industry's about. They get what post-production's about. They get what film's about. They get what broadcast is about, and VFX. And so why is that important to you guys? Well, when they formulated Content Agent, and Content Agent has been around for at least, I think, 8 or 9 years. It's been a tool that's I think has really been a signpost for a lot of people to say, these guys have been doing it for so long. They've been extremely successful in doing this system. It's a system that we want to replicate, and it's taken everyone quite a number of years to get to them, to get to that level with the node-based workflow tool designer. So the idea is, on the left-hand side, it's hard to read the text, but I need to put my text in there as well. So there was a trade-off there. But the idea is, you can take in a piece of material now based on the different characteristics of that file, or what codec it is, etc. You can then take that material in. Up the top, we've got an MXF wrapper. So what we're trying to do is get it to be wrapped as an MXF piece of material. The next one down is store item, which means you can put it on a file system or a location for other people to utilize. There's a couple of store locations there, store item workflows. So one could be you store it on an NFS share or a CIFS share that's on the network as your backup. One could go to an LTO or an LTFS drive to then get backed up to LTO. And another one could be back it up to a USB hard drive. But if you have a look at the MXF wrapper works step, you then go into two specific areas. You've got the command line launcher up the top. Now, why would you want a command line launcher? Well, essentially, if you need to do a number of steps that aren't necessarily directly supported in here, like you wanted to encrypt it in by some third-party piece of software, you can actually write scripts for it to dump it to that location and push it out. If you look at the next one down, which sits in between the two sides, you've got the metadata extractor. So you may want to take metadata from a particular file and submit that to an Avid interplay environment. Similarly, you want to move it to a new location. There's another store item. There's an FTP step. There's an email clip, so you can render a very, very small version and email it as well. So as you can see, you can build these workflows more and more complex depending on what you actually need. So the good thing is it is resolution independent. So it is built on off-the-shelf hardware, which is fantastic, and it really scales from SD all the way through to 8K. And if you remember, I mentioned the HEVC codec, which is the new H.265. They are supporting that now, and they will be supporting that in the future. Now, just to go back on what I said before as well, in terms of playing nice with each other, they have a lot of integration with people like Intera as well as VidChecker. Now, VidCheck is a new QC piece of software that we're very, very happy to represent in Australia. Within this workflow, you can actually have a QC step which submits the file to VidChecker, and VidChecker will check the file and then submit it back into the workflow to go through the rest of it. So albeit that the file's actually leaving the system, it does come back as well, so that you can use this to drive a lot of those manual tasks that you've got. So just to jump over, you've also got Avid automated Avid ingest workflow. So essentially, you can take this unit, you can do file-based ingest, and you can actually have it submitted directly to the Avid interplay database, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you've got someone sitting there that's taken in 4 terabytes of material, you want to effect a workflow change, so you've got a bunch of red material, you want to transfer it into a proxy version plus a DPX, put those in 2 different locations, and the DNX goes off to Avid and gets checked into the interplay database. You can absolutely do that using the web services API that Root 6 have been utilizing. So I guess the message there is, you don't actually have to have a dedicated workstation. You don't have to have a media composer sitting there not making you money just to do manual ingest step. It can create proxy files, as I just mentioned, and it's all based on automated watch folders. So you can have it just scanning a watch folder. The moment something hits it, it goes off and initiates the workflow. And you can set up different workflows based on different folders. So really, really powerful tool. If you also on top want to do distributed rendering, there is a pathway for that as well. You can add additional CPU nodes, just as what they call job nodes, essentially, and you can submit different jobs to different nodes, which is quite cool. So as I mentioned, a lot of people have certainly looked at Root 6 and said, I want that node-based solution. And, there is 2 more coming that I'm showing you. Obviously, the Telestream Vantage is one of the biggest competitors, but it's worthwhile noting that the content agent is certainly for your post side of things more than your facilities management side of things. So this is where Vantage comes in. So Vantage is quite a large system. It can be scaled from quite small to very, very large. So it again utilizes the ability to take material in, affect that material, and push it to a number of different locations. Where they differentiate themselves is Telestream obviously have Episode, Flip Factory, and a number of other encode products that they have within their system. They also have analysis tools, subtitling tools. They integrate with stream systems. They integrate with any number of vendors in order to have the automation more important than the individual steps and having someone in there. They also have an hardware appliance called the Lightspeed Transcoder. So this is a 1RU server that essentially accelerates all of your rendering. So very, very cool system, and one that you should definitely take a look at. We can help you with scoping that solution as well. A topic that was popular last year and is still extremely popular in Australia is the calm audio compliance. So in using your analysis tools in Vantage, you're able to see whether the audio is compliant with the standards or with the calm standards, which is essentially it's not 2000% more louder than the actual program itself, whether that's ads or whether that's the actual program. So it's really normalizing that audio, and Vantage can absolutely do that, and they are part of that, the compliance. Again, ASO2 MXF encoding, so that's the intermediate files as well. It'll do all your up-down cross conversions, de-interlacing, interlacing, really whatever you want to chuck at it. If you want to get really, really complex with the workflows, this will absolutely scale with you. So the next one is Digital Rapids Transcode Manager. So Digital Rapids have traditionally been a streaming company. They've done a lot of work with their StreamZ appliances, and Johan will go into a little bit of that. But it's really worthwhile putting in here their Transcode Manager and their Kayak system. So what does Kayak mean? I asked the guys on the booth and said, why is it called Kayak? And it's because it's Digital Rapids. We help you navigate the stream of digital material. Didn't particularly like it, but at the same time, the theory is being able to take your material and guide it down the correct path. Now, what I think is the differentiator between Transcode Manager and other products is that the logic behind the system is very, very intuitive, and it's also it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. What you can do is you can take your media file input, and the interface may look a bit scary, but it makes a lot of sense. So I take a piece of material in, and I get, let's say, 4 or 5 nodes down the workflow. And the QC step brings up, oh, you've got drop frames, or you've got a media offline slate, or something's wrong with it. Now, based on what that variable is, you can then resubmit that piece of material back to another step. So it's in the Transcode Manager interface, you can say, well, if it's got a slate, then you need to email me. If it's coming through at the wrong aspect ratio, then you need to initiate this step or make a notification, or you need to submit it to a different workflow in order to rectify. So the logic behind it makes a lot of sense, and is what I think sets it apart from a lot of the other vendors. Now, on top of that as well, you can run this in a virtual environment as well, and they were showing that on the stand. It was very, very clever. So it's very, very scalable, very, very simple to deploy. In fact, it's so simple to deploy that when they actually initiate patch updates for you, your system can be online, and if it's on the intertubes, it will actually push new codecs to you if you want it to. So there is no requirement to go and blow the system away and restart from scratch. You can then just apply small patch upgrades as you go, as the system's live. So it's very, very cool. So really, on the Digital Rapids side of things, it's really anything to anything. There's very few elements that are actually left out of it. So the closed captioning support that I mentioned before, this absolutely does the teletext and the closed captioning. It'll do your Dolby loudness correction. It'll mux and remux material as you go. And as you can see through the big arrows, which I think is the Digital Rapid that they were talking about. Kayak sits right in the middle and is able to help you go from an NLE to a file-based post workflow, to go from an archive to optical media. It can really do anything to anything. It just depends on how you want to do it. So just to show you a bit more of what was new at NAB, the HEVC support absolutely is supported. 4K Ultra is supported. Dolby E, as I mentioned just before. One of the big ones that people often ask us about is GXF support. So many of the broadcasters require GXF material and use that because they have K2 servers, let's say. The digital rapid system can absolutely multiplex and demultiplex those files and is able to send those off to your playout systems. And there's a lot more coming as well. They integrate with Windows Azure, so that's the cloud storage, and you can actually put cloud engines in. You can actually put Kayak engines in the cloud. So if you wanted to do distributed rendering into the cloud, you can absolutely do that. So you can have it on premise, or you can have it in the cloud. And I think that's really, really cool. So that's the digital rapid. So definitely give us a call about that. The sales guys here can talk to you about that, and we can get you in contact with the right people for a demo. Okay, so the next section is a product called SnapStream. Now this, I stood in front of the booth for a little while and was quite surprised and didn't really, it didn't really dawn on me for a few minutes how cool this box was. If you look at the front box, it looks like any other box. It looks quite simple, and it had B and C's in the back. So it was like, well, what's so special about it? The idea behind this box, and it is an automation tool, is that it's a TV monitoring box. So, who cares? My Elgato TV does that at home. My PlayStation Play TV records it. Who cares? What is really cool about it is you can have 4 RF tuners in the back and record material by using the electronic program guide that's readily available. And you say, well, so what? You can create TV clips, you can record and archive material, and you can play a clip over the LAN. Well, what's so cool about that? Okay, so what's cool about this is the RF signal will carry with it teletext, it will carry closed captions with it, and the SnapStream box can see all that. But not only can it see that material, but it will actually be able to decode the closed captions, store the closed captions, add that as metadata to the actual file itself. Now, just remember, we are going over just a TV tuner, 4 TV tuners in the back if you want, and it will take the closed captions in. So great, it takes the closed captions in. It actually indexes all that material as well. It indexes all of the metadata that goes with it. You can fast forward and rewind the material, and you can scan the closed captions, but you can start to do some really, really clever workflows with it. So if you let's just say you're part of the coalition at the moment, and you want to know every single thing that's being said on television about the coalition. What you can do is you can actually set up a number of workflows and a number of alerts to say, okay, anytime someone mentions the coalition on television, I want it to record that. Or I want it to record in the news anything about the coalition. Or I just want it to record 24/7, and every single time the coalition comes up, I want to get an email about it. Or at the end of the day, I want to get a digest of what everyone said. So, that's pretty fantastic. What's very, very fantastic is that when you actually get that digest and you get that material, you can click the hyperlinks in the email and jump to that section of the material. So as you can see on the left-hand side, someone set up the very specific President Obama alert, and they want to search for everything that is President Obama. So this is quite good for, if you're a newspaper, if you're a rich media organization, if you're a streaming company and you want to get fast access to material that that is happening on the television right now, or has happened in terms of the last 10 years, for instance. You could search for all of that material. You're researching a piece. I want to look on everything that's Obama. It comes up with a list view, and you can skip between each of those sections. So other smaller things that it can do is you can toggle between the results from the recordings and what's brand new. You can do it by channel as well. So you can say, I want to know everything that the ABC said about the Greens on the issue of marriage equality, but it was within the dates of X and Y. Or I want to know what this individual said about this. You can be very, very specific with what alerts they are. Now, if you look at it from a larger organization, if you were, I would say a newspaper is probably a very, very good example, or an archival house, you could have multiple units in the facility and start building up a very, very long archive of all the material that's there. And you don't actually have to have a production system to capture all this and have someone manually entering all this material. So very, very cool stuff. Now I'll just jump quickly over. I'll show you one of the alerts that I've got. So I asked Gayan, who I believe is on the webinar this afternoon, to set up an alert for me. So we decided to have breaking news, but it had to be channel KHOUDT, which is News 11. I love all the KXY, Fox News. We wanted it on that specific channel about anything that they did in terms of breaking news, and this is what I got. So every couple of days, whenever it broadcasts, I get an email like this, and as you can see, I can click on the play, so I can play that entire clip, but I can actually have it jump directly to the point at which breaking news was mentioned. It'll do it a couple of seconds before. I can either view the transcript or I can download the transcript as well. So I can actually have a text-based version of that. And there's a lot more that you can do. I can actually see that and then email that clip to someone else, and it will generate a H.264 and email it to the recipient. So very, very cool. You can have email alerts specifically around trigger words, which is absolutely fantastic. And as it says, you can download the material and download the transcripts. So the next section, if you've ever sat through one of my presentations before, I always try and mention Espera because I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite products in the entire world. And that's not because Espera are on, because I don't believe they are actually on the webinar, but really it is an absolutely fantastic product. So I'll briefly do a quick, what is Espera? So Espera is essentially a protocol. The core of Espera's product is the FASP protocol, the FASP protocol. And what that is it's a transport stream that gets material from A to B just really, really fast. And you're probably saying, well, so what? It gets things from A to B really, really fast. When I say really, really fast, it will utilize the maximum amount of bandwidth that you can give it. If you give it a gigabyte upload and download, it'll do it. If you give it an ADSL connection, it'll use the absolute maximum that it's capable of. So what's so cool about Espera then? Well, FTP is it's quickly becoming a redundant system, and people are needing ways to securely transfer files between a number of locations, and again, try and automate a number of workflows on the basis of that. So the idea, particularly in Australia at the moment, we don't have an NBN, irrespective of your political beliefs, who's got the better NBN. It is still a very, very relevant conversation to be having, because material needs to go faster and faster, and the file sizes are only getting bigger and bigger. So why is Espera? Why are we mentioning Espera for the NAB show roundup? Well, they've done a lot of work over the last 12 months, and really they keep going from strength to strength. There's been a huge pickup on sync workflows, and what sync workflows are basically taking a file system or a folder and syncing that to a number of different locations. the idea is you can do a sync one way, you can do bidirectional syncs, you can sync to DR, you can even sync to the Amazon cloud or Windows Azure as well. So very cool, very cool system. Similarly, you've got, in terms of automation side of things, you've got the Aspera Orchestrator, which I'll go into later as well. So I'll show you that. There's all the mobile apps. There's the Outlook plugin for FastSpecs. Just heaps and heaps coming out of NAB. So NAB announcements, the main ones I'd probably suggest looking at are the desktop point-to-point, being able to push material up and down with Amazon and Azure. Now, what that means is you as end users and you guys as facilities, there is a lot more people utilizing Amazon Web Services and Amazon storage to get material off-site as their off-site backup, and also to distribute that material to a lot of people. Now, that's all well and good, but you don't want to have to sit there uploading 40 terabytes of material up into the cloud through a web browser. So you can actually directly integrate with Amazon via the Espera desktop client. So yeah, definitely check it out. The Amazon on demand with Espera is quite cost effective. So definitely give us a call if you'd like to have a look at that. The add-in for Outlook, I know I'm skipping down, but the add-in for Outlook is absolutely fantastic. I always get giggle like a schoolgirl when I can press the attach button in Microsoft Outlook and attach a 40 terabyte file, and it will go through your FastSpecs server and send it to the end user. It's also funny seeing their face on the other end going, what? How do I receive this? So that's quite cool as well. But that's really good for when you're needing to send large pieces of material, but you need it to go via email as opposed to having people purchase clients with FastSpecs. Another great announcement was a further extension on Espera Shares. Espera Shares is essentially an overview of all of your Espera servers, whether they're here or whether they're worldwide. So you can actually link all those systems and have a single interface to upload and download and set work groups for people to exchange material backwards and forwards. As an extension of that, they have the Espera Shares Drive, which is very similar to the Google Drive that many of you probably have, or a Dropbox. So very clever stuff. So you can save your material locally as a user, and it will automatically sync up into a larger storage solution or an off-site storage solution. So that's very cool. For all of you Avid houses out there, the Avid delivery plugin, if you need to have interfacing technologies of two Avid interplay systems, you can actually have interplay directly ping the Espera server to transmit data from one location to another and directly put it into your interplay. So very cool. It's a very good managed solution, and it can be really deployed in any environment. As I mentioned before, people playing nice with other people. Telestream Vantage, they absolutely leverage the Espera side of things and can utilize that as part of the end of their workflow to be able to say, when you finish doing all my fantastic rendering, transcoding to 52 different billion file formats, I want it to go to this person, and utilize Espera for that. So the next part, which is the orchestration side of things, the idea behind Espera Orchestrator is really to leverage other technologies and be able to move material between disparate systems to get a single point of data movement. So what does that mean? And if you thought that sounded waffly, it's because it somewhat is. And the reason it sounds like that is because Orchestrator will allow you to design your workflow how you want it. So when I say workflow, I say I need a piece of material to come in. I need it to arrive on my DMZ server because I have a DMZ server to make sure that no unauthorized material comes through. But when that piece of material comes in, I want it to be submitted to a virus scanner, and I want the scanner to go through the file and check that it doesn't have any viruses. But then I also want it to go to Vantage, and I want it to transcode. And then after that transcode, I want Aspera to then move it to an Isilon, an Omnion, a StoreNext file system. I also then want it to push off to my DR storage, and then I want it to go to QC, and then I want it to distribute. So you can again create quite complex workflows. Now it's very much worthwhile noting that they are not trying to they're not trying to build a transcoder. They are trying to work with other people that you'll see on the next slide in order to facilitate those movements, as opposed to having 52 different people managing 52 different manual processes. So it's really making the glue that goes between all of it. It is a GUI interface that you can pull material backwards and forwards. And as you can see, the integration partners are absolutely fantastic. So whether it's Telestream, whether you want to work with SeaChange or Oracle with YouTube, it's quite endless. Now, if they're not in this list, I can absolutely guarantee you that it's very, very quick to get them into this list. You just articulate your requirements to us. We'll have the chat with Espera and yourself, and we'll be able to make this work for you. So the idea, get your material as fast as you can to wherever you can, and utilize your existing infrastructure to get ROI on that as well. Last thing that I briefly want to touch on, because I know I'm running out of a little bit of time, is how to bill your clients. Espera has a software package called Console, and what Console is it's essentially the granddaddy. It's the way that you can see every single thing that's happening with any of your Espera systems from a technical aspect. So all of the propeller heads out there will go, oh, that looks cool, because you can see every single recent transaction, every single current transaction, whether there was problems, what sort of bandwidth you're getting. You can also assign bandwidth per client, bandwidth per node. You can say, if you can set up policies to say, if this user logs in, they are an inherently difficult user, so I only want to give them 2 megabits a second as opposed to a gigabit a second, or they prioritize those sort of jobs. It's also really worthwhile if you need to have a look and say, I don't believe that person should be transferring Game of Thrones 2 days before it's been broadcast in Australia. So it's a way of logging and auditing any material that goes back through. Now, why did I say how to bill it to your clients? If you're a facility that's doing client-facing sessions, or you need to interact with people and they're using an amount of bandwidth and you want to build that into your bill, you can absolutely show them this. Put this in your billing system as well. Get the reports out, get it into your billing system and say, well, you actually used 2 terabytes of upload and download over a 3-month period. We told you that there was going to be costs associated with that, and you can effectively bill them, not overcharge them and not undercharge them. So a really valuable system, and it's a really good way of managing that entire environment as well.